Welcome to RPTV Weekly News. I'm Kedar, joined by Fred, Gabriel, and Marcelo, ready to bring you the latest updates from Regent Park and its surroundings.
In this episode, we'll cover important events and community updates from December 2nd to December 11th. Stay with us for the news that matters to our community.
TCHC, Daniels, and Tridel host Regent Park community meeting to share revitalization updates. Petition opposes new condo developments in St. Jamestown. MPP Kristyn Wong-Tam addresses Ontario Disability Support Program challenges. City adopts plan to speed up affordable housing development. Ford government introduces Maintaining Public Spaces Act to dismantle encampments. Ontario passes bill to shut down supervised drug consumption sites. NDP Toronto Centre spreads holiday cheer in Regent Park. Events and jobs in the community.
TCHC, Daniels, and Tridel host Regent Park community meeting to share revitalization updates. Residents of Regent Park gathered at the Regent Park Community Centre on December 2nd, 2024 for a meeting hosted by Toronto Community Housing Corporation, TCHC, Tridel, and Daniels Corporation. The event provided progress updates on phases 1 to 5 of the revitalization project, highlighting housing, employment, and community investments. The meeting, moderated by TCHC's William Mendez and Esha Hidwe, introduced a new question and answer format using the Mentimeter platform to streamline community input. MPP Kristyn Wong-Tam and the City Councillor for Ward 13, Chris Moyes, opened with remarks emphasizing the significance of revitalization efforts. Updates followed from key representatives. Hila Omarkale, VP of Social Impact at Daniels Corporation, discussed the Daniels on Parliament Building, new commercial spaces, and local employment initiatives under Phase 3.
So one of the things Daniels did at Daniels on Parliament, which is our last condominium in Phase 3, is we were really committed to making sure that there were affordable home ownership opportunities available. So we invested $5 million of our own money to create a new affordable home ownership program very specific to residents of Regent Park. Or former residents who had lived in the community prior to revitalization or relocated through revitalization. So when we last did this community update meeting last year, we had 10 individuals or families or couples come forward to purchase, and I'm happy to report that that number is now at 12. So the entire $5 million has been allocated, and these individuals are working on completing community service hours in the neighborhood that is part of this program. And next year, they'll all be moving into new homes at Daniels on Parliament and continuing to be a Regent Park residents who have made the transition to home ownership. Yeah, definitely a good news story there. The net proceeds from the songs from the journey, 80% of those will be invested into Daniels Spectrum. And that'll do a few key things. Two of the sort of main high priority things it will do is it will keep rents sustainable for the tenant organizations in Daniels Spectrum, so it will prevent the rents for coming up for at least 2 years. It'll also replenish the Community Access Fund for 2 years. That's the fund that organizations and groups can apply to for subsidies to access Ada Slate Hall. And then the third thing it'll do is continue to support programming in the community living room, which is available free of charge to groups from the local community. Thank you. Local hiring. This one actually does go back the 18 years. We have worked directly, but with all of our trades and consultants in Regent Park to hire locally. The most impressive number I'd like to share is that Daniels directly at our company through the course of the last 18 years has hired 57 TCHC residents, many of whom still work with us today. And the net economic impact of that, as you'll see, is $7 million. Thank you. Worth clapping for sure. We've also pioneered 2 programs, and this has been with partners in the community, including TCHC, really to support youth getting pathways to employment.
Brian Sherwood and Asal Afshar of Tridel shared progress on phases 4 and 5, including upcoming job opportunities.
So to date, since we began this work in about March of 2021, we've invested over $270,000 directly into the community, and that is to support a variety of different initiatives, including local granting opportunities, as well as supporting a lot of the vibrant community events that we all attend on every year in the summertime. In addition to that, we know that it's important to also create opportunities for everyone, and we have been working really hard to create greater access to education. So through the Toronto Community Housing's investing in our diversity scholarship program, as well as through the Bold Foundation, we have provided 12 scholarships to date to residents from this community. Part of our commitment is also to build economic well-being for residents within the community. And to date, so we have provided 21 employment opportunities for residents, and they're in a diversity of different opportunities across various fields and different types, as you can see, like from full-time to internships for new grads to part-time opportunities as well. This is just the beginning. We haven't started construction yet. We're working really hard towards a community benefits agreement, and so these are just sort of the early accomplishments. We understand that it's important that the opportunities that we're bringing are well-paying jobs. To date, these opportunities have resulted in over $550,000 in wages, with an average hourly wage of around almost $27 an hour.
Peter Zimmerman of TCHC detailed the Phase 4 demolition process, the opening of 175 Oak Street, and housing application opportunities for Building 4A. Presentations also covered community engagement initiatives, the CREATE program, and new services to support residents. The event concluded with a Q&A session, underlying the importance of resident feedback in shaping the future of the neighborhood.
Petition opposes new condo developments in St. Jamestown. Residents of St. Jamestown are opposing plans for 2 high-rise condominiums at 5 Huntley Street, 2-8 Earl Street near Freshco. The St. Jamestown Resident Council has launched a petition demanding the inclusion of affordable housing and community infrastructure. The petition highlights Toronto's ongoing loss of affordable rental units due to demolitions and gentrification. St. Jamestown, one of the city's most diverse neighborhoods, faces significant pressure as the proposal allocates only 10% of units to 3-bedroom apartments, insufficient for the area's many families. Advocates say the plan prioritizes market pressure over community needs. The petition is gathering support online, urging residents to take action to prevent displacement. For details, please visit change.org. This development debate underscores the need for equitable housing solutions in Toronto.
MPP Kristyn Wong-Tam addresses legislative poverty and Ontario Disability Support Program challenges. Regent Park TV sat down with MPP Kristyn Wong-Tam to talk about the urgent crisis of legislative poverty in Ontario, with ODSP and Ontario Works recipients struggling to meet basic needs. Many face homelessness and dire living conditions. Wong-Tam criticizes Premier Doug Ford's policies, calling for immediate changes to make these programs reflect the true cost of living. The discussion also highlights the heartbreaking case of Isabella Gamke, an ODSP-OW activist who tragically sought medical assistance in dying. Wong-Tam emphasized how systemic neglect is pushing more disabled Ontarians towards despair. Let's hear what Kristyn Wong-Tam has to say.
Well, Doug Ford's failed policies, especially as it relates to the poverty wages of ODSP and OW recipients, is basically condemning people in Ontario to a life of destitute. It is very hard in Toronto and definitely in Ontario, some of the most expensive places across the country to make ends meet when you don't have enough money. And it's not just the fact that Doug Ford has failed to increase the OW rates and ODSP rates. They've also have other failed policies such as housing. They haven't built enough housing. They don't have the ability to, or they won't impose rent control, which will really enable people to actually afford a home so they can have more money left over for basics such as food and fuel, transportation. So a combination of these failed policies from the Ford government has rendered many people in our communities, especially those living on ODSP and OW, with additional hardships. It's important for me to note that this doesn't rest only with Doug Ford. He's been in power for 6 years, but prior to that, the Liberals had an opportunity to fix the system, and they didn't. So Ontario has been under Liberal and Conservative rule for close to 30 years now, 29 plus years, and things have just gotten consistently worse. For many people on ODSP in particular, are struggling so much and suffering so much that they would choose to end their life through the medical program to terminate life rather than to continue to live under economic hardship. And this is, of course, very inhumane, and it's heart-wrenching to see, especially since I have brought this issue up on many times in the Legislative Assembly. I know that my colleagues have from the official opposition NDP, calling on the Ford government to double the ODSP rates immediately, to double the OW rates immediately, so people can have a fighting chance to at least pay for the essentials. And every single time Doug Ford has chosen not to do so. The death of Isabella Gant is highly troubling because it could have been prevented. Isabella is a very well-known person in the core of the city. I've seen her lead protests and raise her voice on multiple occasions, both at the City of Toronto and definitely at the Province of Ontario. She's a longtime recipient of the Ontario Disability Support Program, someone living with HIV, someone who is also from the transgender community. Isabella just seems to have one strike against her after another. So Isabella is a wonderful example of a person not being quiet, a person doing everything she possibly could to raise the issue of injustice and the structural and systemic barriers that are plaguing people living on ODSP. The fact that she had so much fight in her for all those years, that eventually she ran out of fight, is a testament to her power, but also to the overwhelming challenges that face people living with disabilities, long-term disabilities in Ontario. So she chose to end her life because she just was beaten up by the system so badly. And I know that, those decisions were not taken lightly. I also know that Isabella gave the government multiple opportunities to respond. She was oftentimes here at Queen's Park, especially outside the building, where she, would raise her voice and sometimes be a one-woman protest movement, to be quite honest. But the people who had the power to do something about it, namely the Premier and the cabinet ministers responsible for the file, chose to ignore Isabella. But to be quite honest, they chose to ignore all Ontarians who are living on social assistance. They have kept the rates well below what is legislative poverty. And I think, this is what I would call social murder. The government has blood on its hands. It has a responsibility and could have taken action much, much sooner, and they've chosen not to. And Isabella's death was not the first in Ontario of that kind. So the MAID program is now an escape route for many people who are choosing to end their life through medical intervention because they cannot exist with the harsh conditions that the provincial government has condemned them to. Because number one, they can't work. It's not voluntary, it's involuntary. They cannot physically work, which means that they cannot feed and provide for themselves. And this is why we have a social safety net. That's why programs like ODSP and OW exist, is that so we can stop people from falling through the cracks. But when it's so grossly underfunded, then people are going to fall through the cracks of the social safety net because it's shredded apart. And the Ford government, and I will say the previous Liberal governments, let that happen because this problem was not created overnight. And every government every premier who has sat in this house could have fixed the problem, and they've chosen not to. So they will, give out corporate tax cuts, very large ones. They will go out of their way to subsidize multinational companies. They will overstep Indigenous land claims and ignore local, rural, northern communities to extract the minerals that they need. They will bulldoze, basically forests at Ontario Place, and they'll subsidize an Australian luxury spa developer at Ontario Place. They'll tear down the Ontario Science Centre. They will privatize healthcare. They'll do all of that in the interest of private corporation and private profits, but they can't take care of Ontario's own people. And that is just absolutely disgraceful.
Ford government introduces Maintaining Public Spaces Act to dismantle encampments. Premier Doug Ford's government has introduced the Maintaining Public Spaces Act, a bill aimed at granting cities and police greater authority to clear homeless encampments in parks and vacant lots across Ontario. The legislation proposes fines of up to $10,000 or 6 months in prison for repeat violations, alongside measures to restrict public drug use.
These encampments are taking over public spaces, with illegal drug use happening out in the open, creating huge safety risks for people and communities. Enough is enough. This has to stop, and it will stop. Families deserve to play in and enjoy their parks and playgrounds without fearing for the safety of their kids. A couple of weeks ago, the mayors standing with us today wrote to me. They asked for specific measures to help end the spread of encampments in their communities. Today, Ontario is answering. Everyone here knows solving the homeless crisis, ending encampments, it starts with more shelter space and roofs over people's heads. That's why we're investing $75.5 million to further support homelessness prevention and provide people living in encampments with access to alternative accommodation. This includes $50 million to create more long-term affordable housing units across the province and $20 million to expand shelter capacity and create additional temporary accommodation spaces like tiny modular units. This new investment builds on the $378 million we're investing in homelessness and addiction recovery treatment hubs, and the nearly $700 million Ontario invests every year in homelessness prevention and supportive housing programs. More investments isn't enough. Municipalities, local police forces, communities, the courts, they need new tools. So this afternoon, our government will introduce legislation that will protect communities, clear out encampments, make our parks and public spaces safe again, and get people the help they need. These new measures include amendments to the Trespass to Property Act to enhance penalties for people who deliberately and repeatedly break the law. The legislation will also make it crystal clear that it is illegal to use illicit drugs in a public space, including encampments. Police will have the new tools to direct individuals to stop the use of illegal drugs or to leave the public space, with fines of up to $10,000 and up to 6 months in prison for people who repeatedly use illegal drugs in parks and public spaces. As part of the measures we're announcing today, we're requiring more accountability as to how provincial investments are being spent to make sure it is being used as effectively as possible to end encampments and help people in need find a safe and appropriate place to live. And finally, we're going to keep exploring new approaches that provide the option of rehabilitation instead of prison for people convicted of minor or non-violent drug offenses. Because ultimately, our goal is to help people recover while keeping our communities safe. Friends, these measures we're announcing today answer our municipal partners' call for help. They will expand capacity in our shelter systems, ensure people struggling with addictions and mental health challenges get the support they need, help and end the use of illegal drugs in public, and equip police services with the new tools to address and dismantle encampments.
City adopts plan to speed up affordable housing development. On December the 10th, the Executive Committee approved a plan to speed up the delivery of affordable housing across the city. A key part of the plan is creating a new housing development office by mid-2025. The office will focus on building homes faster on city-owned and supported lands. It will work closely with Toronto Community Housing and Create TO, organizations already involved in housing projects. The plan directs TCHC to provide construction services and act as a partner for city-led developments. Create TO will continue identifying city lands suitable for new housing. Both organizations will sign agreements with the city to formalize their roles. This initiative supports the Housing TO 2020 to 2030 Action Plan, which aims to create more affordable housing options for low and middle-income residents. The city emphasized that current housing projects will continue moving forward to avoid delays. As Toronto faces rising rents and growing need for supportive housing, this plan is a step towards providing faster, more efficient housing solutions.
Ontario passes bill to shut down supervised drug consumption sites. On December 2nd, the Ontario Legislative Assembly passed Bill 223, effectively mandating the closure of 10 out of 17 supervised consumption sites in the province by March 31st, 2025. The law prohibits safe injection sites operations within 200 meters of schools, child care centers, and similar facilities. It also bans local governments from seeking exemptions to decriminalize drug possession or applying to open new sites without approval from the provincial health minister. Supervised consumption sites provide critical services including overdose prevention, drug checking, sterile supplies, naloxone distribution, and referrals to healthcare and housing. In 2022/2023, the 10 sites set to close reversed over 1,500 overdoses, saving countless lives. Since 2020, Ontario's harm reduction services have supported 1.12 million visits, offered over 530,000 service referrals, and averted 22,000 overdoses. Despite these outcomes, the provincial government cites public safety and crime concerns to justify the closures, a claim refuted by research showing reduced crime near safe injection sites. Meanwhile, the government plans to invest $378 million in 19 new homelessness and addiction recovery treatment hubs, HEART hubs, which exclude harm reduction services like supervised consumption and safer supply programs. Experts warn that closures will increase overdose deaths and disrupt essential services.
NDP Toronto Centre spread holiday cheer in Regent Park on Sunday, December 8th. The NDP Toronto Centre brought the community together for a joyful holiday celebration at the Regent Park Community Centre, hosted by MPP Kristyn Wong-Tam and joined by federal candidate Samantha Green. The event brought together neighbors and supporters for a joyful afternoon of food, prices, and holiday cheer. The gathering highlighted the importance of community connections in Regent Park and Toronto Centre, showcasing the spirit of togetherness during the holiday season. And now for events and jobs in the community. University of Toronto and Focus Media Arts Centre presents The Changing Cultures of Regent Park starting January 9th to April 10th, 2025. 10 slots available. Learn about the Regent Park redevelopment and economic social justice. Gain audio and radio production skills and produce your own radio show. For more information, contact Aditi on the email below. Join the pancake breakfast at the Regent Park Community Centre on Saturday, December 21st from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. There will be pancakes, crafts, games, and more. Make new friends and celebrate the holidays with the Regent Park community. Hope to see you there. Friends of Regent Park invites you to a community steak event on Saturday, December 28, 2024 at the Regent Park Ice Rink, 480 Schroeder Street. Skates and helmet will be available free of charge. Hope to see you there.
And that's all for today's show. I'm Kedar Ahmed, and I've been joined by my co-hosts Marcelo, Gabriel, and Fred. A big thank you to our dedicated team who contributed to this week's episode. And from Focus Media Arts Center, thank you for watching, and we'll see you all next year.
Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And please follow our social media platforms. For more information, check out our website.